Hey y'all, I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com, and today I have an art journal process video for you. I'm going to be working in my Dilutions art journal. We're just going to find a page here and kind of get to work. So I am planning on using a lot of gouache paint today, so I have that pulled out. I'm using the Arteza brand of gouache paint, and otherwise I will just end up linking everything that I grabbed for down below so you can check out those products if you're interested. Otherwise, I'll put you guys on fast forward. Let's go. Step one for this entry is going to be working with a little bit of collage. I'm actually working with clear gesso. Normally I would work with a collage medium, but I'm out of that. So we're going to work with clear gesso and make it work. I have a whole little part of one of my art carts that is full of just collage pieces, and that's what I'm kind of ripping apart right here. Just little pieces of paper I've collected. I kind of want to stick with the browns and the grays. Then here I am pulling out some of my scraps that I have as well, just filling in this little section because I'm wanting it to look like land. You can see the gesso actually dries pretty quickly, so you have to keep going over and over it, and I would seal it at the end anyway. I try not to use Mod Podge for my collage because it tends to end dry a little sticky in my opinion, and it sticks together. Gesso doesn't do that, so that's why I prefer gesso over something like Mod Podge. All right, I'm trying to fill in all of the little gaps and keep pieces from looking too square. That's why you see me tearing a lot, using plenty of gesso just to make sure everything stays down where it's supposed to be. And we have my little landform going over here. We're going to go for a lighthouse for this particular spread. I thought it would be fun to use that lighthouse image. I'm having a little trouble getting this one to stick in between, but we'll get it. It'll stay. It'll stay there eventually. A little piece moved out, gotta get it all covered up, and then of course let it dry completely, and I'm gonna start kind of sketching out where I want the lighthouse. So we're gonna do a lighthouse, we're gonna do an abstract background for the lighthouse, and we have of course our abstract landform. It's a very rough sketch, just the general shape of a lighthouse. We're not going to go into too much detail, but you have the top, and then you have the little place where you have all of the different windows that are going to be shining light. And then of course I'll have the very large light that'll be shining from the top of the lighthouse. So little ledge right here, and then we will come down at an angle to form that lighthouse shape. And I'm just, again, very roughly sketching it in. We're going to paint over all of these pencil lines, so I'm not really worried about them staying. And I'm trying to be more adventurous in my drawing. So I don't really have a lot of confidence as far as drawing. I love art journaling. I love doing patterns and texture and stencils and colors and all that. Drawing an actual literal shape or form is a little bit intimidating to me, but I'm trying to be a little bit more brave with that. All right, here is the abstract background that are going to be kind of these waves, and we're going to stick with blues for those to kind of give the impression of the sea into the sky, and then of course the light shining through all of that. All right, so now it's time to dive into the paint. Like I said, I'm using gouache paint. So gouache paint is kind of like a mix between watercolor paint and acrylic paint. So you do add water to gouache to make it a little bit more creamy, but how much water you add affects how translucent the gouache ends up being. So I'm getting a white, and this color is called latte, and then a gray, and that is going to be how I kind of paint the lighthouse. So we're going to start with the base of white, and then we're going to mix in a few colors just to add a little bit of shading. It's, of course, it's a dirty white. It's a dirty lighthouse. It's got some age to it. So you can see I'm just mixing in a little bit of that latte color. This particular set of paints from Arteza has pearlized paints as well as flat paints, and I was making sure to stick with flat paints. I didn't want any of that pearlized color coming in. So filling in a lot of this background. Most of this video is just going to be painting, and I am drying in between layers because I'm wanting to build up that white a little bit just to make sure it's completely opaque in the parts that I want it to be opaque, and then I'll bring in little bits of the latte color and the gray color. And that's one of the cool things about gouache paint, is that you can layer it and build it up, so you don't have to come in with the full thickness. In fact, you shouldn't. You should really work with those layers and see how they blend together. All right, adding a little bit more here and there. And now we're gonna go in and add the black up here at the top. Again, I'm not the like neatest painter, but that's okay. I'm gonna come back with some markers and really define some of these lines, but we'll add the black there at the top and then figure out which blues I want to use. I want 5 different blues for this area in the background. So we're gonna kind of do a gradient look going from low to like dark and up to light blue. So we're gonna see how that looks. So filling in all this space, again, you add a little bit of water to the gouache to make it creamy. You can see how there is a translucence to it. I'm trying to make it as even as possible, and you'll see me go through it several different times or go over it several different times just to kind of build up the opacity that I want to have. Let me know if you have ever used gouache paints, if you are liking gouache paints. I know that they are kind of having a moment right now. A lot of people are using gouache paints. They are fantastic for all kinds of journaling because they tend to not bleed through pages, which is awesome, of course. I like how they're kind of this mix. You get some great bold colors like you would with acrylics, but you can also water them down like you can with watercolor. So I like that mixture. I actually covered gouache paints in the Self-Care for the Creative Soul course, which is still available. Every couple weeks, I release a new session where we cover a new supply or technique. If you've missed a technique or supply that you're interested in, it's no big deal because there's a library where you can look at all of the past lessons. So when you log into the course, then you can just hit at the library, and there is one that talks all about gouache paints, all the backgrounds, all of the different techniques that you can use gouache paints for. And then every week I offer, or every lesson, I offer a live create with me in a way. And we do a live creation session and create a project together step by step in real time. And all of those are available in the library as well. All right, so building up these blues, I like how it's coming out. I like the impression that you get where it's like the sea and the sky kind of all becoming one, because I think that definitely happens out on the ocean sometimes. It's that feeling of just being surrounded by blue. And then, of course, you're going to have the light shining from the lighthouse. So filling all of this in, I'll go through and dry it just a bit and then add in, see, I'm adding in a second layer just to make sure it is as opaque as I can possibly get it. And I'm rinsing off my brush in between my waters just off camera, adding another layer here and there. And the cool thing about, you can see where some of the blue got onto the White House, and that does not worry me just because gouache paint, you can layer it so well, you can like cover that up very easily with another layer of white. So it's not going to be a big deal in the end. All right, next up, let's deal with the lights shining from the lighthouse. I'm going to mix a couple different yellows just because the lemon yellow was what I grabbed first, and that was a little bit too bright for what I wanted to go for. So there was another color, I think it was called ochre, that will darken that up just a bit. And we'll just make this solid in here. I'll have to do another layer, a few touch-ups, and when I come back with the yellow, I like how it kind of brightens up and adds these little streaks in there. I love that look. So we're just gonna kind of go with that and filling in all of that space. You can see there are some sections where the blue gets into the edge. Again, not super worried about that. That'll all get cleaned up once it is dry. See how I'm able to just easily cover up some of that edging right there, and then I can add in a little bit more color as well. I build up this White House or the lighthouse color multiple times. It's just kind of how it works. And you can see I have my heat tool to dry and I'm painting at the same time. It's just kind of something I like doing. It dries it faster, so that's a little rough. I come back over with water and white and see how it just blends out so well. I love gouache paints. I love how that lighthouse came out. I think it is super pretty. Drying a few of the spots in here, and then we're going to start to add a little bit more detail to our lighthouse. Okay, so to add detail, I'm using my Archer and Olive acrylograph pen in black, and I do really like these pens. You'll have to let me know. I'm having some trouble with my acrylographs. They're not coming out very smoothly. You'll see me multiple times. I have to go and start the ink, if that makes sense, like restart the paint, like press it on that little post-it note multiple times, way more than I would have thought I would have needed to. I'm storing them horizontally like they're supposed to be stored. I'm activating them by shaking them before I start. And sometimes I'm just not getting the flow. So if you use Archer and Olive acrylograph, let me know if I'm missing some tips, or maybe you're having a little bit of trouble with them too. I like the opacity of these. I like how fine tipped they are as well. You can see, just going to add a little bit of yellow here in the lighthouse windows with another Archer and Olive. But something about them is making them a little bit harder to use than I would like. All right, we're going to dry this little section, and then we're going to go and add some more detail onto the sky and the waves that are in the background. Here we go, drawing here, my light, we're going to define that with the black line, and then we will use the same marker to define the black lines on these waves. And I like how it pops out. I like the combination of the abstract with like a very real object, which is the lighthouse. And the phrase that I'm going to put on here is choose to shine your own way. And I like that you can take a typical scene. Sorry for my head getting in the way. I wanted to make sure it was right on the line. I like how you can take a typical scene in art journaling and recreate it in your own way. And it doesn't have to look like anyone else's, and you can change it up and you can try new things, and you can, be inspired by someone and then change it. And it gives you every opportunity to shine in your own way, in your own light. And that's one of the reasons I love art journaling, love sharing art journaling, even though they're like my least popular videos. So if you love my art journaling videos and you watch them, I really appreciate it. They're like by far my least watched videos, but they're the ones that I really, really enjoy making almost the most. And so I'm going to keep going just because that's what my channel has always been about, sharing things that I am passionate about and not necessarily pandering for views and things like that. So if I was, then I would definitely not be doing art journaling very often anymore. All right, so we're going to add a little bit more design. See how I'm adding a second line to all those waves, and then we're going to go through and add just little doodles and things, little zigzag lines, circles, stripes, all kinds of fun little just extras in here just to add a little bit more interest and pattern. And then we'll do the same thing where the light is shining as well. You can see this, I'm like super having trouble with the acrylograph at this point. Now it's kind of going, but you can see multiple times I have to go to the side and I'm like trying to get that acrylograph to work again, and it is bugging me at this point. All right, filling in some circles. We'll do some circles up here, and then I will add a line to my little light right here, and we're going to go with a super straight line to contrast the not so straight, and we'll do zigzags in here. And that's going to set off where my title will go, which I will add with a lettering pen and then a Sharpie in just a moment. So I start my lettering with the Tombow lettering pen, which is my favorite, but mine happened to be running a little bit low. So I come back with a Sharpie just to add a little bit more emphasis to some of the sections. So choose to shine your own way is the title of this particular entry. Coming back with the Tombow, but you'll see me grab a Sharpie in just a moment. Once I'm done with that, then this art journal entry will be done. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell notification button. Like I said before, I will link all of the supplies that I use down below, so you can be sure to check out those links if you are interested. I want to give a huge shout out to all of my Patreon members. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. It really means the world. All right, I hope that you have a fabulous day. And as always, keep it creative.